Hi everyone, and welcome to week 8 of the course project. So we are on week 8 tab, the CVP analysis, and our scenario is this. It's December 31st, 2022, and we're closing the books on our first year in business. We have some management accounting reports here, and we want you to remember that we started the year with high costs, low production, and high customer prices. So throughout the year, we've been able to optimize our operations, but we also increased our fixed costs by opening a brick and mortar storefront. So what we're going to do is we're going to perform cost volume profit analysis, and we're going to use two different data sets. All right. So here is our information for the end of the year. And what we're going to do for the next 4 questions is we're going to use two different data sets. This first problem wants you to pull information from the job order tab. And remember, that was our first month that we operated, and we operated it outside of our home. Inside of our home. The second question is going to ask you the same exact questions, the contribution margin, unit contribution margin, and contribution margin ratio, but it's going to be based on the information up here. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this first one. So again, we're going to use the job order tab, and we're going to calculate the contribution margin for all jobs. So first, let's talk about what is the formula for contribution margin. So that is your revenue minus your variable costs. So we want to go over to our job order tab, and we want to grab our revenue and our variable costs. So I'm just going to go over to the job order tab, and that's this tab that you guys worked on. So I'm going to grab all of the revenue and all of the variable costs. And I can do that simply by summing up. I guess sum won't work. Hold on. All of the customer prices. So that's the revenue that we took in. And then I'm going to use my total costs to capture my variable costs. And I'll do the same thing. All right, so that's my revenue and that's my variable cost. I just need to bring that information over to the CVP analysis tab. So I'm going to grab my revenue. I'm going to subtract out my variable cost. And there we go. That is the information for the contribution margin. Now, for your unit contribution margin, you know that the calculation is a little bit different. You're going to take your contribution margin that you just calculated, and you're going to divide it by the units you produced. And then you know that the contribution margin ratio is going to be a little bit different. You're going to take that contribution margin, and you're going to divide it by your sales. All right, so we've gone over the first question. Moving on to the second question, remember this information is going to come from what you have above. And what you have above is you have your total sales for the year, you have your variable costs for that year, you have your fixed income, and then you have your units produced and your unit cost. So again, you will perform these calculations with the table above. Now let's go on to number 3. We're going to calculate the break even in units for 1 and 2. And remember, we have 2 different data sets. So I didn't tell you on the job order tab what your fixed costs were. So here you go. Your fixed costs for the job order tab are $100 per month. So you're going to take this information and you're going to provide the formula, which is fixed costs divided by your unit contribution margin. All right. And so question 1 is going to be based off of the job order tab, and question 2 is going to be based off of the table above. Okay, now for the final one. The final one has a few steps to calculate your change in operating income, but let's just talk through what's happened. So you found a local coffee shop that'll sell your cupcakes for $15 per dozen. You have a verbal contract to deliver 6 dozen each week. What you're going to do is you're going to use the contribution margin ratio that you calculated in question 2, and I'm going to come up here. Question 2 is this one, which means you're using the data from up here. So again, you're going to use the contribution margin ratio that you calculated in question 2 to calculate the change in operating income. You're going to assume that you deliver 6 dozen every week for 52 weeks, and you're also going to assume that nobody returns any cupcakes to you. So step 1, put the formula in for your change in operating income, and it's going to look just like what we've written out here or up here. So this is just your written formula. So for how much extra revenue you're going to generate, and remember there's a difference. We're talking about revenue here, but in step 4 we're talking about operating income. So those are two different things. You're going to calculate how much extra revenue you'll generate with this. And your revenue is really how much you're selling, how much does it cost, and how many weeks are you selling it for. So you'll just multiply all of those things together. Then you're going to calculate your contribution margin ratio. You actually already calculated your contribution margin ratio for question 2. So you're really just going to grab this information right here. And then you're going to use that formula that you pulled in this step 1. And you're going to use all of the information that's here, and you're going to calculate that change in operating income. All right. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.